Good morning. We're going to go ahead and get started. Good morning. Welcome to day 2 of our HBCU Making Innovation Showcase. We have a jam packed day of professional development sessions and workshops for both students and faculty today. But first off, I am honored and privileged to introduce our keynote speaker for this morning's plenary. She is doing amazing, amazing work. You can read her full bio in our program, but I do want to mention a few things about her. We met years ago through NOBUSHE, National Organization of Black Chemists and Chemical Engineers. She is the CEO and co-founder of Crescendo Foods, a culinary hub in Accra, Ghana. She's doing some amazing work in entrepreneurship, innovation, and science policy. She got her BS in chemistry from St. Augustine University, and her master's in analytical chemistry from North Carolina Central University, and a doctoral degree in food science from North Carolina State University. So she is a double HBCU alum. In 2018, she was named by New America as one of 35 Black American national security and foreign policy next generation leaders. She's also a fellow, so AAAS Science and Technology Policy Fellow, where she served in the U.S. Department of State's Office of Global Women's Issues and a Foreign Affairs Office in the Office of Agricultural Policy. I want to leave her as much time as possible for her presentation and Q&A. And again, please read her very impressive full bio in the program. So I present to you now Dr. Wanida Lewis, CEO and co-founder of Crescendo Foods in Accra, Ghana. And just a little bit about how this will work. Since she is virtual, she will only see me. She won't see you all, but she will hear your questions when we get to the Q&A portion. So if you have questions, I'll ask you to come to the mic and speak loudly and clearly so that she can hear your questions, and I will moderate the Q&A portion when we get to that point. Dr. Lewis.
Thank you. All right, can everyone hear me? Dr. Iris, if you can give me a thumbs up. Perfect. All right. Hello, everyone, and good morning. It's still morning here in Accra, Ghana. As Dr. Wixaff has mentioned, I am the CEO and co-founder of Crescendo Foods. It's Ghana's first culinary hub. It's a shared commercial kitchen space. So I wanted to take the time, because this is the AAAS HBCU Innovation Showcase, I wanted to talk about how to become a boss, how my HBCU experience led me to entrepreneurship. And also would like to thank AAAS for this opportunity to also talk about my work and really talk about how that experience propelled me to where I am now. Whoop. Hopefully I can move this. There we go. So here's the overview. I'll just talk a little bit about me, my HBCU experience, talk about Crescendo, how can HBCUs support entrepreneurs, innovators, and etc. And then how can HBCUs broaden the participation for this for entrepreneurship? So talking about making space, and then of course we'll have a little bit of Q&A at the end. All right, so as it was mentioned, I went to St. Augustine's University. When I was there, it was called St. Augustine's College. I majored in chemistry, and I actually received an NSF scholarship, as well as a scholarship to go to play in the orchestra. But I had this NSF scholarship that was part of the HBCU UP program, where you had scholars from across several different HBCUs who were able to have the opportunity to do research, but also was helping them have access to funding. And the reason why I'm even mentioning access to funding is because that's something that is very critical when it comes to Black and brown students throughout their life, when it comes even if it's college, or even talking about funding for starting a business. So from there, I actually did 2 internships. I did one at Becton Dickinson, which was a pharmaceutical company in Research Triangle Park, and also did a very long internship throughout NC State, which was my first exposure to food science. My mentor at the time, who actually ended up becoming my advisor on my master's and my PhD, He was the first and only Black professor there. He's also from North Carolina. His name is Dr. Leon Boyd. And so, really, he was my first exposure as far as becoming a boss, becoming an entrepreneur, and still and be able to fulfill the passion that he loved to do, which was making wine, and he still does make it to this day. After that, I left, graduated from St. Aug, went to North Carolina Central, um, where I majored in analytical chemistry, had a biochem minor, and then I did another NSF. It was the Lewis Stokes Alliance to Minority Participation Bridge to Doctorate program. And so that was basically having master students bridge over to other universities. During that time, I joined MANARS, which was Minorities in Agriculture, Natural Resources, and Related Sciences, and was the charter member for NOBASHE, as Dr. Iris mentioned, for the North Carolina Central University chapter. From there, of course, I went to NC State, and I think a lot of the time when we go from HBCUs to predominantly white institutions, that support system changes, right? It becomes very small if it's not already small in your HBCU, depending on your major, but it was even smaller when I got to NC State. I was one of two doctoral students of color in my lab. It was actually myself and another female. She actually is also an HBCU grad. She went to Alcorn State and she went to Tuskegee. And so we learned how to, like most people, you try to make do what you can with what what's going on. And so, and I say make do what you can because it's very different. Trying to have that support, trying to figure out how to get out of school in a timely manner, also trying to be able to support yourself. And during my PhD, I realized that I was putting on this entrepreneurial, using entrepreneurial skills. I received the American Society of Nutritionists Young Minority Investigator recipient because my work was in peanuts. We say groundnuts here in Ghana, and it was looking at the inflammatory properties of the skin. And as you can see over on the, I guess it'll be your right with me holding up um, this glass jar. And it was really something of learning how to write grants, to get money, and how to talk about your project, which I had no idea, which was setting me up to being able to pitch, right? And now I'm pitching businesses, pitching ideas. And then as a result of me graduating from NC State, and really my biggest thing is always, as Issa Rae says, I'm supporting everybody Black, doing the same thing. So after I left NC State, an endowment was named in the department to make sure that students of color who look like me have the opportunity to have access to funding if they're majoring in food science at NC State, but also, just it takes one thing off their back, but also being able to be proud of who they are and being in the space because food science is a very, very, very small space. After that, I went to General Mills, and General Mills is a huge company. Most people know it from Honey Nut Cheerios, but I worked on Toaster Strudel, which was not necessarily my generation, it was actually my sister's. So I did product development, and then I realized I actually like policy. I actually like the impact portion of what I was doing. And while I was at General Mills, I just noticed that, what I did like is that even though it was a big company, each unit was its own business unit. So you were actually learning the business aspect of how companies ran. General Mills is a Fortune 500 company. And so it was cool to be able to see, be able to be exposed to talking to marketing folks, talking to business development folks, and just, outside of just the science. And I think is what happens is that STEM, we become very narrow minded when it comes to what we do. We only think about science, 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 and then we have a hard time transitioning into other fields because we haven't been challenged to be able to tell our story in less than an abstract, right? Like we know how to write a really good abstract, but do you know how to pitch your business? And do you have a 30-second elevator pitch? And those are things that, that I kind of picked up along the way when I worked at General Mills. And then when I got to policy, I had to learn how to write about impact. And so I applied I got the German Marshall Memorial Fund, German Marshall Fund Memorial Fellowship, which has allowed me to explore ag policy in Europe, and then also took whatever skills I learned and shared that with folks in Novashe. And so I was the development chair. So we always had programming around how can you become a better scientist, and more so how can you become a more well-rounded scientist. So from there, I realized, the lab wasn't for me. I wanted something more. I wanted to do ag policy, so I applied for AAAS. the Science and Technology Policy Fellowship, and I was at the Department of State. I did my 2-year fellowship in the Economic and Business Affairs Bureau, which, as you can see from my background, I'm hard science. So now I'm in economics. I took one econ class in grad school for audit, and I never went because it was so boring to me. And now I'm working in economics and doing ag policy, and I did a lot of work. I did work on food standards, women in agriculture, and I had a vision board of all the places I wanted to travel to. I've traveled overseas several times before, like to Europe or whatever, but I've never gotten a chance to really explore going to Asia or going to countries in Africa. So as a result of that, as you can see in the bottom two, I went to Ghana, and then I was able to go to Togo, and then just kept traveling from there. So I started getting the travel bug of really exploring the idea of, can I live outside the US, but also what does that look like as a scientist to do something that's not sciency in the way and still be able to fulfill my passion. So from there, like I said, I worked for the U.S. government. While I was there, I really just kind of, I always use the quote, grow where you're planted. So when I was a fellow, I worked on standards, food standards. So I worked with ISO, which is the International Standardization Organization. I did Codex Alimentarius. These are both global organizations. So every time they had a meeting, I had to go. My first month at state, I was told, there's an ISO meeting, you have to go. It was in Dublin. I had Dublin on my list for like 3 years, on my to do list. And I got a chance to go to Dublin for like a week and a half. And I ate my way through Dublin. It was amazing. Codex was the same. And then I had the opportunity to also represent the U.S. government, talking about why having women being why they should be, why agriculture should be more inclusive when it comes to women. And I'm a food scientist. I know this life. So I was able to go to Morocco and speak on behalf of the U.S. government on our efforts, doing work with helping women get into agriculture. And what we did was, we had outreach funding for different embassies around the world, and talk about biotechnology and why it's so important to have, scientists be supported, or farmers, or whoever. And in this case, I've always made the case, well, this is great. We always have men at these particular at these talks, but we don't have any women. And everybody's like, oh yeah, because women are the ones who are out in the field. If I'm the one taking care of the money, you should at least let me know what policy is coming down the pipeline to know how it's going to affect our family. And so from that work, I was asked to come back from to Ghana, because I actually created a gender strategy, and I went to Accra the first time to do a workshop there, and they asked me to come back and live in Ghana for a couple months. So in 2018, I packed up my whatever little stuff I could bring and went to be an embassy science fellow at U.S. Embassy Accra, where I worked with women entrepreneurs. That was my goal. That was the point of my project, and it was trying to connect as many women entrepreneurs as I could when it came to funding, and just also understanding the ecosystem. So I went to Ghana, was also able to go to South Africa, and then I went to Togo. And then, as the result of the work that I did, I was awarded the Superior Honor Award, which usually is given to like high level civil servants, or foreign service officers. And I was only there for like a year and a half, and I was still doing work like this, but it let me know that I was in my path. I was on the right path that was laid out before me. So another thing for me that I always say is that, when you have these opportunities, always recognize the gaps and then try to fill them if you can. So the gap that I saw was that, we did this outreach for ag policy, but we did not have a gender strategy, right? So I did my research and created this gender strategy that ended up setting the foundation for the entire bureau's overall gender strategy. They never had it, and now they have this amazing program that is helping women who are in executive positions connect with other women across the world. And the thing is that came from the work that I did with connecting African women, across the continent, who were in agriculture. And so from there, we also started this Women Who Lead and Ag speaker series. It was a policy dialogue series that we would have at the State Department that was open to all agencies, the public, and people would come. And when I was in Ghana, I started the Young, Gifted, and Brown Mentor Program, because even though it's nice to talk about executive women and people who are in their career, but what about the younger generations? And so that program was specifically implemented through the embassy, where they connected elementary school girls with, women who were entrepreneurs. And so they had a mentor program. So life after AAAS, I still stayed at state for another 2 years. I was the senior program officer, actually economic program officer. So now I'm coming from a food science, and now I'm a senior econ program advisor, which sounds so scary, but it wasn't that scary. So I, just evaluated the programs that the State Department gave money to in the Women's Issues Office. So I was the leader on women's econ, women in STEM. I evaluated our global program, so I got a chance to travel even more. If any time there was small, medium, and enterprises that needed funding, I made the case for that. I had partnerships. I collaborated with a whole bunch of different women, and just around the world. And especially my goal was always connecting. Like I said, I'm rooting for everybody black. So it's always, if any time there were, like, we did something in the Caribbean, obviously we're going to go to the Caribbean, right? If we're doing something in Brazil, it's not just Rio, it's actually those indigenous communities that don't have a seat at the table. That was important to me, is having that seat at the table. And so I also got a chance to speak on why that was important. So being able to go to Kigali, Rwanda, to talk about that, to be able to talk about these efforts and talk about the importance of having women, black and brown women, having a voice at the AGOA, which is the African Growth Opportunity Act forum that is between the U.S. and AGOA countries in Africa. So I'll talk a little bit about my current adventure. So I was at the State Department, and I always knew that I wanted to leave. The State Department was never something that I wanted to do for a long term. And so I always encourage people that keep in mind that you don't have to follow anybody's path. Follow your own, especially now with technology and all the opportunities that are upon us. Take it. So when I went to Ghana in 2018, I was there for 3 months. I liked it so much. I was like, you know what? Let me try go to other African countries, which I did. And I always loved Ghana. It was like coming home. And when I was at state, we would always meet different people from around the world, especially women entrepreneurs, who would talk about how, hey, I don't have any place to scale up. I make shea butter in my house. I make spices in my house, and I do everything for my house. I don't have a place to scale up. I can't afford commercial kitchen spaces, so it's expensive. And so I started thinking, because in DC we have Union Kitchen, which is Union Market. There's these shared commercial kitchen spaces all across the U.S. There's even some in Europe. But when I started doing my research, I noticed that nobody would touch the continent of Africa. There's only two commercial kitchen spaces, and that's in South Africa, which they don't even consider South Africa to be part of the rest of the continent. And it's actually started by a black South African, and he calls it Wakanda Accelerator. And so I thought, if I ever have the chance to come back to Ghana, maybe I'll start this, see what happens. And I thought, like most people, like, oh, I'll save my money, quit my job, da 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 da. Then the pandemic happened, and I was like, you know what? This is all I can do. Let me go ahead and focus on this. And I did. I came to Ghana, I had an opportunity to work for a nonprofit, wasn't a good fit. So I decided to start my current adventure, which is Crescendo Foods. So as I said, Crescendo Foods is Ghana's first ever culinary hub. And when you're the first, you get a lot. So we were founded in October 2020. I basically took, excuse me, the life lessons of being a AAAS fellow, and also learning how to build that ecosystem of what I learned as an HBCU alum, to be able to build a startup. The food community here is small but big. Accra is very small but big. Ghana's not a big country, but there's a lot of people. There's millions of people who live here. But you start to see pockets of people who only work with who they want to work with. And so I wanted to change that landscape, where when we're talking about food, it's not just farmers, it's chefs, it's restaurants, it's whoever. And this particular startup is connecting. Everybody focuses on farming. We're looking at the finished product. We're looking at the chefs. We're looking at the restaurants. We're looking at the caterers. We're looking at the bakers, and how can we create a safe space for them. And also, it's my fulfilling my passion to pay it forward. And because I'm in this space, what I learned, especially when I was at St. Aug and at Central, is that collaboration is key. You can't do anything by yourself. Yes, you can grow where you're planted, but with those roots and those branches, those are different things, yes, experiences, but also it's about other people that you've met. And, also I realized that communication is also very important. As scientists, we're always about communicating our stuff, our data. But you have to look outside and be able to think about, as an entrepreneur, well, who's it impacting? Who's your target audience? Which is totally different from sometimes what we have to do. So as you can see, here's just a few things that we've done. So recently, Jenna in our space. He came with a group of scholars who are interested in understanding how to invest in Africa. That's my team on the right. And then we also launched a online course to get people in the diaspora who are interested in, how to get into the Ghana food industry. So I've been doing a lot of work. So I really just take it one day at a time. And I'll say this: this was founded in 2020. I didn't get registered until 2021 because I'm in Ghana. It's a different landscape, totally different ball game as a foreigner. And then on top of that, getting a space. Here you got to pay your rent 1 to 2 years up front. That's a lot of money that's coming out of your bank account, right? Or coming out of your investor, whoever. So I really just took it one day at a time to try to figure out what works best for me and not trying to rush things. We get on social media and we are like, oh, this person has this amazing business. You don't have any idea how they got there, or they've been working on it for 10 years. You have no idea. So currently, I just want to show a little video of what the space that we've acquired, what it looks like. Has a little bit of music. So we have acquired this 3 bedroom, 2.5 bathroom house that will be turning into a shared commercial kitchen space. So darling, jump in the ride before the train is gone. Let's take a ride. Look in your eyes. So as you can see, that is the beginning our of what we're planning to do. So now we're kind of getting into this space of what are we doing at Crescendo? Like I said, we're a kitchen, right? So we're supporting entrepreneurship. We're supporting, um, uh, entrepreneurs that are innovative about what they want to do, and then also again creating that community. Even if you're not an entrepreneur and you just want to come and eat and just be exposed, Crescendo Foods is about that. We're creating a vibe, right? Is what we say in Ghana. It's nothing but vibes. And of course, representation matters. A lot of the times when you see all these amazing startups, it's always men that are behind it. And I'm not saying that's not important, but you also need to see women as well. So representation matters to me. My team happens to be all women, right? But also, I'm a foreigner, so I'm not going to have all expats either. It has to speak to the culture and the community that we're working with, which are Ghanaians or West Africans or just folks across the diaspora. So my team represents that. And so one of the ways of how we create a vibe is that we host, we work with different chefs from across the continent. And so I just wanted to show a quick little video of when we hosted Jadena a few weeks ago. Living the moment, tomorrow belongs to God. Nothing can break me, nothing can bend me, nothing can bring me down. Bella what you had, we all deserve a chance. La 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 la. I don't go where no love, where my home. Caraibo, down so long, long way. So I'm sure you all see that and think, oh my God, this is so cool. But trust me, it's a lot of work. So this is our after. So this is what we'll be launching in November of this year. It's our commercial kitchen space. As you can see, we're creating a co-working space as well. Not just because you're not a food business does not mean you can't come. And so hopefully the next time I see you all, we'll be able to talk about something even more, as just, talking about scaling up, right? This is not just a Ghana thing, but this is a Pan-African solution that can, we're looking to have across multiple countries on the continent. All right, so let's talk about the current state of Black-owned businesses. So there, of course, there's some challenges. This is not just in Ghana or in the continent of Africa, but this is everywhere, right? But in the context for this talk, we'll talk about in the U.S. So, of course, there's approximately 9.3 million minority-owned businesses in the U.S., as according to the 2021 U.S. Census. And out of that 9.3, African Americans own 124,551 of these businesses. And the largest percentage is 28.5 of it, 5% of these businesses are in the healthcare and social assistance sector. So, which is the highest percentage of any minority group. So when you look at Asian businesses, they always talk about them being in the food space. But you're now starting to see a lot more African Americans kind of I shouldn't even say we've never been in the food space, because that's not true. But I would say we're getting a lot more recognition for being in that space. The other thing that's unfortunate is that Black-owned businesses we close twice as quickly as other businesses. Especially if you're a family-owned business, that's a whole other gamut. A lot of the times people have family-owned businesses, and you want to raise your kids to also take over. And you may realize yourself that maybe I want my kids to do something else, or the kids may decide not to do it at all. So that's another challenge. But the pandemics definitely saw a lot of businesses closing down in the U.S., and we also saw it here as well in Ghana. Other things is that when other challenges that Black-owned businesses face, especially founders, is that we start with a third of the capital of our white counterparts, and the same thing here. In Ghana, when you hear about these great businesses, some of the time it's a white founder. It's not even a Kenyan who's starting a business in Kenya. And that lack of capital can also leave existing businesses, and leaves you to be vulnerable, because what happens is if you don't have that secure funding, it can cause issues when you're trying to scale your business. And so when you're accessing that capital, it's always a constant challenge. And for me, for instance, as an entrepreneur, mine is very capital intensive, because we're dealing with production, we're dealing with manufacturing. So it's always, you have 3 or 4 contingency plans. Another thing is that when we do receive capital, it's a very small percentage. $1 billion of the total $150 billion invested in U.S. startups in 2020 is we only get 0.7% of that. That's how small the percentage is. And if you're a Black woman, it's even smaller. And so, now that we're thinking, as you think about it more and more, you're starting to see a lot of these venture capital firms come up. So, that's the thing. You have to really just keep in mind, what are the challenges as you start a business. So how can HBCUs support entrepreneurs? One thing is that as an institution, we have to remember that we are producing the next generation of owners and entrepreneurs. And of course, graduates of HBCUs are twice as likely to have those support systems as opposed of Black graduates who do not go to non-HBCUs. So of course, that mentor who encourages you, or that professor that cares. So how can we support these entrepreneurs? One, curriculum development. Especially in STEM, I think we need to encourage entrepreneurship through on-campus programs, business programs, partnerships with business schools, introducing those certificate programs in entrepreneurship, even incorporation of business and finance courses in STEM majors. Because if you are going to grad school, you got to learn how to, write a grant, but you also have to learn how to balance a budget. And then, of course, always we talk about pipeline creation. Yes, we can create partnerships with venture capital firms to help match students, but we also can do other things when it comes to development of internships, when it comes to capstone programs, so that you're preparing your students to be able to solve real world problems, and they'll be able to understand how to fund it. Other ways is that establishing campus accelerators, incubator programs that can offer students funding, kind of like a Shark Tank, and you can give them an investment support. And of course, there's always that hands-on experience in helping to build a startup business, even in an academic setting. So when we talk about, of course, making space, what does that look like? This is the opportune time for HBCUs to help train, develop the next generation of entrepreneurs, and help them to be able to scale. Why is that important? Because it creates $5 to $12 billion in incremental revenue, which can always help to go back to the communities. So I would like to leave you with this when it comes to making space. You want to be, think, and create. Be the change and don't get left behind. And this is specifically for our institutions. Think outside of the classroom and then create. You can create an environment of old school techniques with the younger generation. I always hear that as a scientist, oh, my teacher doesn't think or my professor doesn't think it's okay for me to go to a policy fellowship or a policy program because it has nothing to do with it. There's life outside of academia, government, and of course, private sector. All of those are businesses. And if you do not know the business acumen of how these things do not how these things work, you will fail. And if you decide to go out on your own, these are things that you even have to understand. And if you're a broke college student, you're always going to have to learn how to balance a checkbook. So why not be able to apply it and decide to either become an entrepreneur or decide to just be innovative and bring these tools in to be able to have a life worth living. So if anyone has any questions, of course, this is my contact information where you can find me and our website to follow along with what we're doing. And I will conclude with my talk. Thank you so much to AAAS for allowing me to speak and looking forward to taking questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Lewis. Thank you for sharing your amazing journey from St. Aug to Ghana. and
No
all.
problem.
So, if anyone has any questions, please come up to the mic stand and introduce yourselves, your school, and ask your question. We have just a few minutes, but I think we could fit a few in, so go ahead.
Hi. Ooh, can you hear me?
Dr. Lewis, can you hear her? Can you speak loud into
Oh,
the mic?
Not really.
Okay.
okay. Okay. Hi, my name. Can you hear me now? Okay. Hi, my name is Allison Bridges. I'm from Lincoln University, and I was really interested in like finding out what other countries in Africa that you were going to um, do these businesses about. Like, I was wondering about like Nigeria and stuff like that. Like, that's important to me. That's what I'm talking.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Allison, nice to meet you. It's a great question. I go back and forth about Nigeria. Nigeria is a beast. We always say here, if you can run a successful company in Africa, you can run it anywhere. Nigeria, there's a lot of safeguarding that and just a lot more planning in place. I would love to bring it to Nigeria. It's on my list, as well as Senegal. You always have
Okay.
to have a French-speaking country because not all the countries in West Africa are English-speaking. So
Mhm.
Nigeria, yes, is on our list because really Ghana, it's a little bit slower as far as movement. But as far as how you do business, you'll learn the same thing here as you would in any of the countries here on the continent. So Nigeria is on the list, but definitely definitely Senegal. So we'll see what that looks like in the next few years. But amazing question.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else, please come up to the mic.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good day everyone. My name is Kamsi Ochukorinze. I am a junior computer science major at the HBCU that's been alive since 1875, Alabama A&M University. So I have two questions. The first one is concerning you yourself. So you've had experiences in the U.S. and now you're in Ghana. So you have diverse cultures and experiences that you could use for your businesses. So I am from Nigeria. I know you just said it's a beast, but I mean, yeah. So being from Nigeria and coming to the US, a lot of times it's hard to find your place where you can actually apply what you know. So
Yep.
with your experience, what advice do you have for someone who has like a different culture, who's in a different country or continent, whatever it might be? And
Hmm.
then the second question is concerning businesses in a different continent. I know if you look at a business, how do you identify, like, how do you know what to look at or the key metrics to look at when you're in a different continent? If you're trying to start a startup in the US, it's most likely not the same thing you're going to be looking at in Ghana. So what are the
Hmm.
things you have to look at?
Sure. Great. Those are great questions. I would definitely say to your first question, It's a lot to learn. I would never say that I am an expert of learning how to run a business in Ghana. I'm very different. You know how it is. First of all, I'm a woman from the North. I'm originally from the Northeast. Was born in Philadelphia, raised in South Jersey. I went to school in Philly. I'm a Philly girl through and through. That has always not looked. That's all. Sometimes looked down upon on this side of the world because I'm opinionated, right? And also coming from the U.S., it's the same thing coming back. If you're coming from Nigeria or wherever, you know how it is when you come. When you're here, it's one thing to say I'm going to get myself sorted. You know what that means, right? I'm going to get myself sorted. Or when someone says, please just give me something small, right? We know what that means here in this context. You cannot do that in the US because you would probably go like blatantly, no. So, so the thing about it is it's hard because I think a lot of the times here is that people think, oh, you left the US is so much easier than being here. It's all about perspective. Every culture has a thing. What you do in the North is not what you would do in the South. I lived in the Midwest. I can't be, me being very direct, I could not be that direct in Minnesota, right? Passive aggressive. They're known as Minnesota nice. So I think the thing about it is when you come in, I came into this space kind of quietly just to put my ears to the ground and see what's going on. When it comes to running a business here and analyzing it, because I've been coming back and forth to Ghana since 2017, I was able to be in touch with people that were in my space. And I would just listen and just ask, like, what's going on here? And then do my research. And the thing is, when you do a business here and on the continent, there's so many opportunities. All you can do is try. And if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But you start to see the same businesses all the time. Everybody has a barbershop. Everybody has this. But it's like, what can make me different so that I can actually get business and change the game? So I think that's what it is for me is that's what I've done is that, I'm never going to come in here and say, oh, I know Ghana through and through. I'm not Ghanaian. I'm not Ghanaian. I'm also not, I also know my boundaries and I try to operate within that space as well.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Go ahead, ask your question.
Hello. So I had a question. Do you have to manage taxes in both Africa or Accra? I can't say it right. And
Oh,
the
okay.
U.S. Accra and the U.S.
That's a great question. So I do. So the thing is, if my business wasn't registered in the U.S., then no. But it is registered in the U.S. We haven't done anything with it, so yes, I do taxes in the U.S. because I do not want to ever have to come back and I'm at immigration, get my passport stamp, and they pull me to the side and tell me I can't go home because I didn't pay my taxes. So I always make sure that I have an accountant on both sides. And then here, yes, you do have to pay taxes. There is a system here, and you just find you pray and find the right accountant and tax person here. I usually just go through referrals here, people who've been working with somebody for years that's like really, really legit. Same thing in the US, so that I can make sure that we're covered on both sides. The Saving Graces were a nonprofit. So, it's a little bit different as far as how taxes are done.
Okay, thank
Great
you.
question.
Okay, come to the mic. Yes, Neela.
Hi. I actually have two questions. Um, the first one, I'm asking for the ladies because I know everybody wants to know how fine was Jadena in person? Because he's fine on screen, so I just am curious how fine he was in person. That's my first question. And my second question was actually speaking to your experience um, in Ghana, and did you have to identify a mentor while you were there in your new role when you arrived in Ghana? But
And those-
please let us know about how fine Jadena.
Um, so the first question, it's so funny. So I've met Jadena before. I met him when I was in DC, and that was when he was like classic man Jadena. So he was smaller, as far as like his build, and he's really tall, and I was really surprised at how tall he was. So I was like, oh, he's a nice little guy. He didn't have the braids, and so when I saw him in person, he still looks the same. So yes, he's still very nice to look at, except he's a little bit buffer now, and so it even makes him look taller. He's a really nice guy. Most people ask me what he smells like. It's you'd be surprised. And so, and so I'm like, I guess he smells like shea butter and freedom. I don't really know. But he's nice as he can be, for sure, and very supportive of women's empowerment, all the things. So yes, ladies, he does really look like that in person. There was no Photoshop. And then your second question, who was my did I have a mentor? Um, Not consistently. I find mentors in different people. I have a group of women that I do talk to who have started businesses, and I ask them questions, but we're not all in the same space. And also they may have an advantage as opposed to if they're Ghanaian American. I am not. But I also try to talk to people who are also in the U.S. or outside of that who are just in the food manufacturing space. Usually, it's the same challenges that we always face. It doesn't matter where you are in the world. But do I have a consistent mentor? No. Always, I think too, it's okay to have a mentor for a period of time and then kind of move on because sometimes you outgrow or, you come back. So, but I do have family, friends. I have sorority sisters who are Ghanaian. I have a cousin whose husband is Ghanaian as well. So I kind of rely on them when it comes to understanding the cultural context.
Any other questions? If not, I have two closing questions. Any other questions from the audience? Okay, come on.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Raquel Blunt. I'm a master's student at North Carolina A&T in Food and Nutritional Science. And my question is, in light of that you are a woman of color and that you are obviously have an entrepreneurial spirit, how did you operate friends and family, whether they supported or did not support you, and how did you respond?
Hmm. That's a great question.
Great
Raquel.
question.
That's a great question. So, family and friends, I'll tell you a little bit about me. My dad actually has wanted my sister and I to be entrepreneurs since we were children. So, doing this is like my dad can now like be he's good to go for the rest of his life. I never, thankfully, I've never had an issue with family supporting me when it comes to running a business. I'm also the firstborn, so my parents know I'm going to do whatever I want to do. At the end of the day, like I'm moving to Ghana, and they're like, oh, okay. I think I had some friends who were a little bit worried because they were like, oh, you may never come back. Well, that might be true, but I mean, I'll come back and, I come back home and visit. So how I kind of help ease that a little bit is just saying I'm only a phone call away, and if you want to see me, you can always come and visit, or we can meet in Europe. So you try to find the compromise. Thankfully, my parents travel. They've traveled all over the world. They just came back from a trip this past week, and they're looking forward to coming to visit me. They love the progress that I'm making. They love knowing that I did something for Jadena. My mom knows about Jadena. And, it gives them an opportunity to talk about what their daughter is doing. And also my sister's fulfilling her own entrepreneurship path within her space. So it can be, I would say, if anything, the transition part for me is the loneliness because you're used to having family around you if you're in the States. But because I'm in Ghana, I don't have my family, but I make sure that I talk to them, and because we're a nonprofit, I force them to be on the board. Well, it wasn't much force, but it allows them to really understand what I'm doing all the time. And I look to my family and friends as a support system and as, to leverage because they have friends and family that could also help me to progress and also be able to pay it forward to other people who want, access to resources.
Thank you very much.
Okay, next question.
Hi, my name is Alice Levert, a graduating senior at Tuskegee University. I just had a quick question. Can you put your contact information back up on the screen, please?
I sure
for us?
can.
Thank you so much.
No problem.
And we can share it with you all afterwards to make sure everyone has it if you can't see the screen.
And there is an I between the N and the D, just to let you know. But some people put Wanda.
Okay. So we will definitely share that information with y'all. And Dr. Lewis, I have two closing questions. One is, what from your HBCU experiences from both universities do you take with you? Like, what was most impactful in your journey? And then the second one, what is one thing that students can do right now today to engineer a career in innovation and entrepreneurship? And we'll close with that.
Sure. The things that I learned from my HBCU experience for me was learning patience, because we all know sometimes that we don't get our checks cut in time. So, uh, patience and also learning when to fight your battles. That's number two. Here, when you come to a different country, you want to fight everybody sometimes, and then it makes you tired, and you won't be able to do anything. And so I have learned that patience is key. Also, learning how to fight your battles, and that is something that I took with me when I went to North Carolina State, because there was a lot of times where I just wanted to like take off my earrings and just go to war. But I'm like, I still got to get this degree. Like, am I going to go to jail or am I going to go to war, get my degree? I'm too cute to go to jail. So let me just go ahead and finish up my degree. Or maybe I should just quit and work at McDonald's. I'll make more money. I mean, you think about that kind of stuff, and it really is patience. And then the second question for students, how they can, what can they do right now? Okay, you have that idea, right? You're a STEM person. It could be something like you have friends who put on lashes and the glue they make causes something to happen when they take it off, something like that. It could be your homeboy plays way too many video games and you think he's cheating, so maybe there's an app where I can create to see if I know he's cheating as we're playing, Madden or something. Any idea like that, pursue it. Take the time to research it. Don't get distraught if somebody else is always doing it, because you can always improve upon it. And I would do that. Take a business course. That's one thing. And if you're planning on doing something global, please learn a language. That's the one thing is like, we can be a little bit ignorant when we go to other places and be like, well, I speak English. Well, I speak 5 languages. So what are you saying? So I would say while you're in college, take the time, or grad school, whatever, take the time to learn everything you need to learn. Take that finance course, take an accounting course. And then the thing is, just because you may not see the return on it now, guess what? 10 years later, you might be able to create a course that says accounting for STEM students. That's money. So that's what I would do. If there are any professors in there, what can they do for their students? Get out of their way and support them. It may be scary for you, but it's not about you. It's about the students and what they can do and how they're actually making your HBCUs, become even better than what they were before. So I'll close with that.
Thank you so much, Dr. Lewis. Please let's give her a round of applause. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
And I'm hoping for my invitation to Ghana soon. So.
Yes, come on through. Come on through.
Thank you so much. So now I have the privilege and honor to acknowledge our sponsor, VentureWell. So I will bring up Mr. Tariq Tidwell to give remarks on behalf of VentureWell, and then we'll have some closing announcements.
That's a hard act to follow. Hard act to follow. But good morning, everyone. And how are y'all feeling this morning? Good. Y'all feeling good? Feel like y'all want to go to Ghana next? Yeah. Who want to go to Ghana next? I am really, really, really excited to bring you remarks and greetings from VentureWell. But also, my name is Tarek Tidwell. I'm Director of Inclusive Innovation at VentureWell. And really, VentureWell, as we shared yesterday. Who remember the 3 C's from yesterday? $10 to the person who does remember the 3 C's from yesterday. Uh-oh. Nobody remembers the 3 C's from yesterday. Check for understanding. Well, go ahead. Communicate. Be coachable. So close. Okay, you get 7.5. Well, listen, definitely. Was someone else had to add on? Okay. But definitely be committed, right? Be committed to the cause. As you can hear from our keynote speaker, she shared a lot about her commitment. And I want to share this a lot, which is if you're willing to be an innovator, to be an entrepreneur, you have to be willing to be misunderstood. You have to be willing to be misunderstood because that is something that the vision that you have is not what other people can see at the current state. And that means that you are looking at something very differently. You have a different viewpoint of what life or what the shape of life, or shape of future should be. You know, don't worry about predicting it. Be willing to create it. And that's something which is, some people will not understand. I'll tell you this. My parents did not understand what I was doing when I first graduated from college. They was like, what are you doing? What's that? It's going to take maybe 5, maybe 2, 3 to 5, 10 years for you to be understood. But we want to be able to say this to you. One, we want to be able to give you confidence in chaos. How can we support your confidence to navigate chaos? By giving you the networks and influence and opportunities, the experience, knowledge, and here are willing to impart upon you, and helping to shape the values, the interests, and beliefs that you have of what the world should be and could be. And then one thing else, what is in your life's blueprint? What is in your life's blueprint is really the core foundation for how you want to shape society and how we believe in shaping and supporting you to shape society by supporting your ideas, supporting your beliefs, and supporting your vision. Venture well, and I say this for you all today, we're really looking to invest into the future, looking to invest into your ideas. And right now, when you get done with it, of course, the HBCU Maker Innovation Showcase, and want to take it further, you have until October 5th to apply to our accelerator program, where you can get up to $25,000 to help you continue down this pathway, this journey. So if you're looking for that third C, which was commitment, how are you committed to the cause? How are you committed to your ideas and transforming society? And we're Venture Well, and we're looking to support you as you stay committed to whatever you decide to do with your venture. So thank you. Hope you all enjoy the rest of the morning and afternoon, and looking forward to seeing your amazing presentations. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Tarek. So hope you all enjoyed this morning's plenary and took away some golden nuggets. I have some very brief announcements. First of all, I definitely want to acknowledge our amazing evaluation team that's here with us. So Dr. Kavita Mitapali and her associates, Nina De La Salas and Debbie Igumbor. So they are an essential part of our team. So I definitely want to acknowledge them. So we will break and be back here at 9:30 a.m. We have a jam-packed day of sessions for both students and faculty. All students will actually stay in this room. All of your sessions today will be in this room. All of the faculty sessions will be in Congressional CD, so which is just across the lobby on the South Tower, and that will be, you'll see a sign for Congressional CD. So all faculty sessions will be there, and then we'll all come back here at 12:30 for lunch. And then another thing I just want to remind you all is we share a lot of amazing resources, opportunities, information on our platform. So if you're not following us on social media, especially on LinkedIn and Twitter, you're missing out on opportunities that we share. Our amazing advisory board, they're sharing something all the time. So please, please follow us so you don't miss out on all these opportunities that we share on social media. So at LinkedIn, it's AAAS HBCU Making and Innovation, and on Twitter, it's at AAAS Maker. So please, please make sure you're following us so you don't miss out on all the opportunities that we're sharing. Any questions before we break? Any other announcements from our team? Okay, we will see you all back at 9:30 and have a great day. Thank you.
Okay, hey everyone, we're going to get started in about 1 minute. What I realize is that we have all the students in the back. Come to the front. We're going to be in this room. We're going to take over the Capital AB room. So during the student sessions, go ahead and move to the front since we won't have any of our advisory board or session speakers here. That way, you're more direct and more in contact with the amazing presenters that we have for you. After you move, we're going to go ahead and get started. Brandon, Adrian, and Joey, y'all can come to the stage.
Yeah, you can be there. It's fine. Fine with me. Well, good morning, everybody. My name's Brandon Andrews. Excited to be here with you to talk a little bit about how to use social media to support your business. For those of you who I haven't had the opportunity to meet, I'm an entrepreneur, investor, and I also do casting for a number of television shows focused on business. So Shark Tank, The Profit, a lot of the CNBC shows, a new show called Bet on Black, which is on Revolt, so Puff's network, which is basically like a black Shark Tank. Over the years, I've met thousands of entrepreneurs, and in the process of casting entrepreneurs and reviewing their businesses to get them on TV, social media and promotion is something that comes up a lot. And so looking forward to having the conversation with all of you about how do you set yourself up personally, how do you set your business up, and then how do you build community online, because as I know our two panelists will get into, social media isn't just about posting and sharing, it's about building a community, getting that community to engage with the content, but more importantly with your business or whatever personal message you might be sharing. All right? Have two great HBCU grads here with us this morning to share some of their expertise as well. Ms. Adrian Shears and Joey Womack. Give them a round of applause. So I have an audience question that I want you to think about while Adrian and Joey are introducing themselves. My question for you is, what do you think the most important thing is when sharing a post on social? Is it having a lot of followers? Is it having relevant content? Is it sharing at the right time of day? What do you think the most important thing is to think about when you share on social? After they introduce themselves, I'll give an opportunity to folks to go to the mic and would love to hear your responses, okay? Adrian, take it away.
Hi, everyone, or good morning. My name is Adrian Shears. I'm a proud graduate of Spelman College. I am the owner of the social media consultancy, VV May Labs. I've been doing social media for over 10 years now, for everyone from Issa Rae, Discovery Education, AARP, runs the gamut. And my specialty is really using social media for PR, for insights and research, and campaign launches. And I also teach a lot of workshops and one-on-one trainings. I'm very excited to be here and can't wait to share my knowledge and also answer any questions you people have.
Awesome. Hey, good morning, everyone. Y'all saw me last night, right? So y'all good. I mean, but I'll add in a little bit more about myself. From a social perspective, I was kind of early on Twitter. I don't know if I was, user less than 1,000 or something like that. So I've seen the evolution of Twitter over the years. I also, if anybody's heard of probably haven't, but there's a big music festival based out of Atlanta called One Music Fest. I was the original social media I literally created the One Music Fest Twitter account. So hand in hand with my original startup, which was in the event kind of nightlife space, my startup kind of grew up to a certain extent, or at least it peaked during the formative age of social media. So I'll speak from my experience over like the last 12, 15 or so years.
Thank you so much. That's a great experience. And Joey, that was, definitely not a not so subtle flex. You were a user less than one of the first 1,000 users on Twitter. Yeah. That's pretty cool, man. I didn't know that. All right, let's go back to my audience question. What do you all think is the most important thing when you're posting something to social? I think you had your hand up first, and then I'll go to the brothers here in the front. Come to the mic. Okay, thank you. You better project.
I think the most important thing when it comes to social media is knowing that everybody has it. So what you're posting, anybody can see it basically. So you should be careful what you post because you could be trying to reach out to an audience that maybe in the future you want to work with them. If you post something crazy on social media, they're not going to want to work with you.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you for sharing that. And again, thank you for projecting. Maybe.
I'm a junior studying computer science at the ever illustrious Alabama A&M University, where our motto is "Service is sovereignty." And to answer your question, I've had experience working with social media because I had a marketing agency at one point in time. And I think when actually doing social media, you have to understand your audience because you can't target everybody. I think everyone has that misconception that with social media, like, oh, get for everybody, and like whoever comes, you go with them. So like understanding your audience really is the first key, and also understanding like the analytics of like what are they getting on social media. For example, people that are like 30 to 40 are probably on social media from like 5 to 6 when they get back from work. While people who are 18 to 25 might be on social media maybe from like 10 to 12. Again, whatever time they are on social media, and really targeting your posts based on that, and also using some like keywords that really relate to them and trends that relate to them, because again everyone sees things differently. Like us, the day trend might be like munch, and then to another person is probably like, oh,
I think you got a mic, brother.
Something presidential or whatever. So really understanding the audience really is the main focus of social media and making your content based on that. So yeah, thank you.
Well, thank you, Alabama A&M. You should be up here teaching the class instead of me.
No. I'm taking notes.
Good day, everyone. My name is Crescendo. I'm a junior computer science major at Alabama A&M University. And to answer your question, I think the most important thing to look out on social media is how valuable your content is. And that really ties into with the timing, the audience. So you need to know how valuable your content is to your audience.
Yeah, that's great stuff. Yeah, we'll do one more here.
Hello, how's everybody doing? Oh, that wasn't loud enough. Do it again, how's everybody doing? Great. All right, Tuskegee University, how you doing? On the stage, I'm sorry.
Now, this brother couldn't let Alabama A&M give a good answer. Tuskegee, which is also in Alabama, of course, had to speak up. The rivalry continues.
I mean, we're in the best location in Alabama. We're like the Florida of Alabama. Come on. Wow. Okay, I'm sorry. Let me get to the question.
Good, man. Go ahead.
I think one of the most important things is not the number of followers. It's related to your answer, which is how valuable it is. How useful is the information? Because the usefulness is what's going to bring people coming back to you. They might not necessarily like or subscribe, but they'll still keep coming back.
Yeah,
That's it.
good stuff. Okay, one final one right here in the front. We can do two. Yeah, it's fine. It can be a conversation.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Raquel Blunt. I'm a master's student at North Carolina A&T State University in Food and Nutritional Science. And
The whole name.
part of my, Aggie Pride. Part of my experience has been where I work with social media management for a church in my local community. And one thing I've noticed is that demographic plays a key point. And so I wanted to expound on your point in that when you look at TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, or even Twitter, the age margins are vastly different. TikTok, attention span, you got about 7 seconds at most. Whereas people that are Facebook are more seasoned saints. And so they're really ready to more read and participate and engage in some of those videos. So understand your demographic and understand what type of content you want to put out, because that's going to be a key component to your brand in general.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, here we go.
Hello, everyone. I'm Alexis Brown. I'm from Jackson State University, and so with social media, I think consistency is key. So I know a lot of people have platforms on social media, and so if you want a constant growth in followers, I think, for example, you may post every Tuesday at 12, so those followers will see, your content they're supposed to see.
Yeah, that makes sense. Consistency, definitely. Okay, we have one more here.
Yep.
Yeah, go ahead.
Good morning. I'm LaVon Newman from Lincoln University of Missouri. And to answer your question, I think the biggest, what was the question? About social media. What you post on social media is the influence. Like coming from me using social media as a youth, we easily get influenced by like celebrities and stuff like that, and just content. Like the influence can come from a caption to a picture.
Mm-hmm.
It can teach you how to chase something, or it can influence you in a bad way. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely. All good stuff. Yep, we have one more here.
Hi, I'm Nashid Kadem. I'm from Morgan State University. So for social media, I think as everybody said, another thing we have to be consistent about the content, what I'm going to post there. Like what is my objective? Like if I'm going to promote my business or any activity, any social activity, that should be like consistent, not like today I'm posting one dance video, tomorrow it's a baking. Like those are for maybe like the people who are doing like every day they're showing their everyday life, that's fine. But if you want to influence other people, you have to be consistent in your content. That's the first thing. And the second thing, I feel like also those content depends region to region. I don't know, I just heard that like in China when students using like TikTok, they get more videos like how to be good in mathematics, how to play chess. But when our kids are doing this social media, they are getting like which song is now, going to dance, which like challenge we are going to take. So that's why what you search, that's also important. So you will get those content is coming because that's the artificial intelligence giving you. So if you want to be a like somebody in social media, your search is also important as well as your content is also important.
Yeah, you got to understand the algorithm, definitely. Well, thank everyone for engaging with that question. So what do we hear? One, what you're posting, you have to be careful about because it's going online and it'll be there forever. We heard that the audience is important and important that you're speaking to the audience, that you know who your audience is. We heard about consistency and the need to consistently post to be able to engage with whatever that audience so they know what to expect from you. We heard that we need to understand which platforms speak to which audiences, seasoned saints versus our younger demographics. It's important to know where those people live and engage. And when we're thinking about business, how the people that you're targeting from a customer standpoint or from an engagement standpoint where they live and how to connect with them. Thank you so much for that. Let's go to our panel here. I want to start with, do you have any quick reaction to what we heard from the audience here?
I feel like I need to hire some of you because these are conversations I'm having with my clients consistently of you see social media and they just want to go viral, or they want to do a trend, but it doesn't really fit for their audience. They want to be on TikTok, but their audience is really on Facebook. So all of these principles are very important when thinking about a campaign or how you want to show up as a business or how you want to show up as, I guess, a professional using your social media as a brand.
Mm-hmm. Joy, what'd you think?
Yeah, a few thoughts. One, after being in this game for a minute, the few things we can kind of break down the phrase social media. I think for the first 10 or so years of it, people more so focus on the social part of the phrase, right? The connections between people, Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn and all the others, MySpace, everybody else in the room remember that. But I think now you have to look at it is then the media part, right? From traditional media, radio, print, like newspapers and magazines, TV and cable and stuff like that. And then I think the current version now is what we label as social media, which means that everyone here is a news reporter, and is a journalist, is a storyteller, is a, call it now, content creators. And there's a lot of power in that. It's a lot of, now you are a news anchor, just like the people you probably grew up watching and stuff like that. And so one of the things we have to ask ourselves is why? To me, why is one of the most simple words in our language, and probably one of the most powerful as well. If you understand why people are reacting to content, it can give you a much better insight into what type of content to create. So I hear majors in the room like how many of y'all are computer science? How many of y'all are in business and stuff like that? All right. Anybody want to kind of throw out some other majors here? Biology. Okay. Anybody? So if you get a chance, either formally through your education or informally, my thing is study human behavior. Study human behavior, right? Does anybody understand, or anybody know how much TikTok was sold for when they sold to Facebook? Too much. Anybody know? So they sold for $1 billion. And again, you all have a presentation to make tomorrow, right? You're being defined. I'm assuming you're being asked to define a problem, right? Is that accurate? Yes. What problem do you think Instagram, solves? Connecting. Information. It started out with people sharing photos, and then they added some filters and stuff like that. I think it solves a problem of the human ego. That is probably the most powerful motivator for actions that we have. And once you start to understand like the Maslow's hierarchy of needs and what people need in order to feel loved and connected and feed into, then people create content around it. That's why politicians, I know we're in DC, if you look at political campaigns, they structure their ads for a reason, to evoke emotion, which makes people act irrationally. And so going back to the media part and you all creating content, my reaction, I know your question was what's the reaction to it, is to understand human behavior, to understand the power that you have when you can create content, and to use it to share your expertise. And we can get into that a little bit later. Share your expertise, leveraging human behavior to try to get the results that you're looking for.
That's great stuff, Joy. So we've heard a lot about what people think is important. We've heard some tactics, pulled back and said, study human behavior. I want to start the panel conversation here. whatever you want to do business-wise is probably going to be impacted by your personal presence. How do you set up your personal presence when it comes to media, social media, to support whatever you want to do in the business world? Adrian, I'll start with you.
So when it comes to social media, right now, there are tons of channels, right? There's LinkedIn, Twitter, there's Pinterest, there's just lots of channels. And a mistake that a lot of people make is, I'm gonna be on all of them. And so what you first have to think of is which channel. And it's preferably a marriage of which one do you like and good at, and which one is your target audience on. So for me, it's Twitter. I don't like taking pictures a lot. I'm not changing outfits. I'm not doing a day in the life. That's not how to me, which means I won't do it. And if I don't do it, I'm not being consistent and I'm not reaching my goals. So the second is, what is your goal? And what makes you, I guess, what's your superpower? What makes you unique? So for me, I like writing a lot. I can be funny, so Twitter, kind of works. But then what is your unique perspective? Because everybody in here is on social media. Everyone can talk about the same thing. What is your unique perspective? And then how can you do it consistently? And so for me, I like to do research for my clients. So recently, maybe it was in August, the internet kind of broke a little bit because Google had released a study that Gen Z was using TikTok and Instagram to search. And so that blew a lot of people who are not Gen Z mind. You guys are probably like, well, of course, it's very fast, it's visual, but everyone was like, oh my God, like, what does this mean? What does this mean? And one thing that I kept seeing online, so this is coming into my next point, is listening on social media. So I was seeing a lot of people just were not understanding what happened. So I created a video. I did a focus group with Gen Zers, and I had them explain why they were using TikTok to search. And we paired that with a split screen of what they were searching on Google and what they were searching on TikTok, and showing how that experience was different. So everyone on the internet, well, not everyone, but all the marketers on the internet were at that time talking about Gen Z and searching. But they weren't showing it. They weren't explaining it. They were kind of regurgitating what was already said. So because I brought a different perspective and did a creative medium, the entertainment, so what Joy was saying of we're now media, I all of a sudden went completely viral. Some of the focus group participants were actually interviewed by the New York Times. We had, I was on Roland Martin Unfiltered to talk about the findings and the election. And so it put me in a different category than my peers because I had brought a unique perspective, and I made the video a little fun, because I was like, I also didn't understand how Gen Z was using it to search until they showed me. So I kind of played up that reaction and called myself an elder millennial. So it wasn't just, oh, I'm the expert here, blah, blah, blah. I made myself human. I didn't get it either. I'm having fun with it. And so I chose these mediums intentionally because I knew Twitter, for example, a lot of journalists are on Twitter. Second, I chose video because you need to actually be able to see. If you're not understanding how someone is doing something, a lot of people are visual learners. So having that. And then also I wanted to, for my business, be out there more. I wanted to get interviewed. I wanted to be on panels like this. So one way to do that is a video. So now they say, oh, she's funny, she can speak, she can engage. So pairing it back to the original question is thinking what makes you special? And I think with all of you in here, some of you are funny, some of you are super witty or super smart, or have pop culture like the back of your hand. How can you intertwine it into I call it your pillar? What is your expertise pillar? So for me, I wanted people to find me or hire me there's a lot of different social media people out there. I want to be known for, I'm not the person who's just going to be coming out and posting. I'm going to actually research, and we're going to come up with great content based off that. So kind of think of how can you pair all of these things together, and that is how you would approach social media. And the last thing I will say is finding that balance of your personality and what you want to share on social media and your expertise. I think unless you're coming up with something super original or super niche, if you're just posting work all the time, that's very boring. Contrary probably adults or, professionals, a lot of fun. And so you'll notice like on LinkedIn, you're seeing people getting a lot more fun or showing a little different side of them. But as to some people said in this room, you also need to find that good balance, because you still need to be professional. You still need, to show up and work, but people do remember things that are fun, and they might want to engage with you, or you're more memorable that way. So it takes a little balance, but I would say the way that I do it is, what was something that if someone saw it and they didn't want to work with me, would I be okay? Because it's like, well, that's how I am all the time, so it's probably like, wouldn't be a good fit, or it'd be like, okay, maybe that side of my personality doesn't need to be shown for work. So finding that balance.
Yeah, good stuff. So get to know yourself. Joey, for you, as an entrepreneur, there's often this blurring of the lines between personal and business. Would love for you to speak to how do you balance that as you build your presence and hopefully set your business up for success?
I think it really does go into a portion of what you said just now, your superpower and stuff like that. The balance or the blur between business and personal, for me, I believe there shouldn't really be one. Now, you can talk about what you actually share on what platforms, but generally speaking, human beings, everyone gets 24 hours in a day, right? That don't change for nobody, no matter where you are in the world. The question is, how are you using that 24-hour period? Right? If you think about it, most people, the way especially like capitalist society is set up, you're spending the majority of your working lives, if you're not in school, working. The majority of your waking hours working, which is, again, a different topic for another day. But then the question is, during those waking hours, again, what are you doing? If you can blend it all together, where your purpose is your work and you're getting paid for it, to me, that's the ideal scenario. It doesn't feel like work. I'm probably sure you've heard, phrases and talks on that before. So let's talk about how you can turn your purpose and who you are as a person into the majority of what you do during your waking hours, right? Last night I talked about you got a choice to make. Most successful people that I found, again, they choose to be great. Another way of saying that is they always are looking to get better. They always are looking to learn. And last night I also told you that you are probably the people in human history with the most unique perspective in the world right now. All the things you've gone through in like the last 2 or 3 years relative to the internet, Black Lives Matter, pandemic, and so on and so forth. To get real specific, I also said yesterday, you are basically working on a problem. What you're really doing, you're expressing who you are as a human. So let's talk about how you can specifically express who you are as a human on social. I'll try to make this as brief as possible. Here's 3 things you can do. It's the intersection of these 3 things. 1, look at what makes you upset right now. Think about what makes you upset. And sometimes, people say like inequality, and that's great, but I would challenge you to go a little bit deeper. So one thing for me that makes me upset is inefficiency. Inefficiency like really drives me, which means I'm perpetually upset, and that's okay. But like it really drives me. So think about what makes you upset right now. And that will change as you evolve as human beings. You're probably 18, 19, 20, 21 years old or something to that effect. It will change over the next 10 years for you. It's natural. 2, think back to what you were like when you were probably in elementary school, 4th, 5th grade, when traditionally and hopefully you may not have had as much pressure as you have now, right? The world's society's pressures. You didn't go to middle school yet. You're at the top of the totem pole when it comes to, elementary school. You weren't. I mean, everyone looked up to you. When you get to middle school, then you're at the bottom. You're looking up to the 7th and 8th graders and stuff like that, right? Those is traditionally speaking when most humans, especially in Western society, are who they truly are. Think about maybe you locked your room at night and you just sang or you drew or whatever. So what activities did you do when you were in 4th, 5th grade, things of that nature? It's probably who you truly are as a human. And then third, if you can, look back to what your parents, maybe your siblings and stuff like that, maybe your grandparents, the skills that they have. So I can tell you for me, again, I was that kid that organized the sports games growing up. My parents are activists and natural community builders. My mom's like a natural Facebook. She's a human Facebook. So when I told you yesterday, I'm a convener of people, a community builder, ecosystem developer, it's a combination of my parents, the things that I did as a kid, and also what makes me upset. And so from that perspective, I'm able to speak on social media and create content essentially that is, I think most people would say is authentic. It doesn't feel like work. There's really no hard delineation between personal and professional. For me, it's just who I am. So my challenge to you is to do that as well and establish who you are, establish your expertise and your dominance as the people who have the most unique perspective in this world right now. And that's how you can start. And then we can go into how do you build community around that later. But that's how you can start to set yourself apart.
Good stuff. Great advice. So get to know yourself. And I guess, Joy, you provided some instructions, what to think about as you try to get to know yourself and what your presence might be like and where you might want to show up online. Adrian, do you have anything to add to that? How did you kind of get to know yourself, your personality, and then how did you translate that to, again, deciding that Twitter was maybe the best platform for you?
I guess similar to what Joey is saying, going back to what I was as a child. I was hosting talk shows. I was sarcastic. I was always, cracking jokes. I was writing stories. So all of that is, I guess, natural to me. I think what happens in the workplace is sometimes you might have a boss that's like, no, you actually need to be doing these skill sets. And especially early in my career, I found myself doing myself a disservice because I'm in roles that may not necessarily have allowed me to use my gift. So it definitely was a journey. And I think most importantly, when I was creating the content that I had mentioned earlier, I was kind of stressed out. I had a lot going on. And then you're just going to have fun. And so it allowed me to be kind of like a ham in the camera. And I would say really doing deep reflection of like, what do I enjoy? And kind of, journaling and talking to other people. One thing that my friends or family would kept, saying to me is like, you really need to be on camera more. And for me, being in social media for a long time, and I love writing, it's not that I mind being on video, it just takes more time to come out the way that I would like it to. So it was kind of really doing that balance of I keep having people say, you need to be on camera, you're doing yourself a disservice, and I'm telling my clients, you need to be on camera. So it was a little bit of, okay, it's time to practice what you preach. So it's really a lot of self-discovery, a lot of trial and error, and a little of, throwing out what you learned, I guess, middle school and high school is really, and maybe even a little college, is, it's like conforming, right? You have to conform to be what society thinks. And I think when it comes to social, that's kind of the exact opposite. You don't want to be like everyone else, and it took me a little time, and so hopefully for you, all since you're still young, that if you feel yourself conforming, break out, like, because what is unique about you is what's going to make you stand out, and really embracing that. because other people have copied my focus group, like literally like a big agency did, like days after mine, but it didn't go anywhere. It wasn't good. Not because I'm the first person to come up with a focus group, clearly not. But the way that I did it, the people in my DMs were like, yours was so much better, because it was authentic to me. It was what I really cared about. It was what I was really confused about. I was genuinely confused on how they were using it. I expressed it in the video. And so if you are true to yourself, and no one can be you, and that is your best advantage. So just always keeping in mind of who you are, and also throw the rules out the window, because some people will say you need to post 3 times a day, you need to do blah, blah, blah. It's really about what you have to say and how impactful it is for me, because I haven't had time to post another video, but I'm still getting dividends, and you still have, your reputation and everything, and figuring out, once again, what makes you unique. So I'll stop going on about that, but that's pretty much my insight into really finding yourself.
Okay, great stuff. So we've talked about what we think some of the most important pieces are as we think about social media, talked about how to find your place and find your voice on the web. Now let's talk about how do you set up a business for success. So, for every one entrepreneur that I meet that has a business and wants to be on TV, whether it's Shark Tank or another show, I probably meet 5 or 6 aspiring entrepreneurs. So people that have an idea or have a hunch, or maybe they don't have an idea and they just want to start a business. Before they get to me, they need to have some kind of online presence, some kind of digital presence, and having a strong community on social media is something that I often look at from a casting perspective. So Joey, Adrian, let's say you're consulting one of these aspiring entrepreneurs who I've met on the road doing casting. Maybe they just started a business or don't have a business yet. What advice do you give to them on how to set up their business account to be successful?
First, that's interesting, right? I mean, from a business account perspective, that starts to go into brand, to voice, and so on and so forth. So, which is a whole exercise. Mm-hmm. I think one of the interesting things to think about is, what is the difference between your personal social and then your business social, and how do you make sure they're different from a content perspective and stuff like that? Because sometimes the founder of a company can outshine their own company's, social media perspective. To a certain extent, like I have that problem with Goody Nation sometimes. So
you have too many followers on social media.
I don't have a ton of. Not even on Twitter. I only got like 5,000.
It's a good problem to have, Joey. Too many followers on social media.
To be clear, I'm not that dude with a ton of people. More so on LinkedIn and stuff, but I do get a lot of engagement. My platform of choice now is LinkedIn. So I get a lot more engagement and focus there, because that's where my target audience is. Twitter too, but the majority of them are on LinkedIn. So it's a thing that I do kind of struggle with, but I think the larger question from a business perspective is, what is your business's brand, and is it an extension of yourself and your team, or are you creating something separate from a brand perspective? So one of the best exercises that I sat through several years ago through a program I was in by the Urban League is, imagine your company was invited to a super cool VIP mansion party, right? Not yourself, but your company. So think of all the things going to a VIP mansion party with the VIPs of VIPs. What is your company wearing? like literally, clothing, shoes, so on and so forth, hairstyle. I'm not saying anything about gender or anything like that. You can also make that. You have to make that decision as well. You know, what he smell like, what car are you driving? If car are you riding in a limo? Or are you getting picked up in an Uber Comfort, an XL, a Uber Black? Are you walking? Are you taking a motorcycle? What, right? Are you driving your own car? What kind of car is it? Think about all those things when you go to a party. Are you eating? And if you're not 21, you shouldn't be thinking about drinking. But if you are over 21, what type of drink do you have when you go to the event? Do you drink at all? That's how you start to think about your brand personality. And so from that experience, you can think about how then you set up your business social media strategy and account.
Yeah, I think that's a great thought exercise for everyone to go through and thinking about, because the next question is, okay, if you are imagining your brand as a person, what platform does that person exist on? Like where are their friends? Where's the community of people like that person to help you figure out maybe this is the platform that would be best to start my business? And Joey would love to, maybe we can do this after, would love to hear more about all of your experience at VIP mansion parties. And I'd love to
my
get
business
an invite.
would like an invitation.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
My
It's a few
invite got lost
celebrities
in the mail.
I will. Those are stories over drinks. I got you.
All right, Adrian. So Joey's told us a little bit about how to land on the personality of your brand, which hopefully will be helpful with choosing a platform. Now you want to launch. You want the launch to be successful. You want it to connect with your targeted audience. How would you advise a client on launching a business presence on social media?
it's a good question. I actually will take it a step back because you were saying you are, I guess, more engaging on social than your business. And a lot of people have that trouble, and I actually say that's actually not a problem for most businesses, meaning people are more interested in people, just point blank, and especially if we don't know your business yet. I care, like if he's on LinkedIn talking about the deals he's won, the deals he's lost, or, new things cooking, I'm rooting for him. If I see it from, his logo, I'm like, I don't really care, until it's built up and maybe becomes like a bigger brand, like, one that we care about, like a Nike or Yeezus or something like that. And so I actually encourage businesses to be strategically, though, person first, because people like engaging with people. An example I'll give, Rand Fishkin, he was the CEO of Moz, which is like this huge like SEO, B2B company. He now has a new startup, and what I'm seeing with him is he's enacting that same strategy. He has over 1 million followers on Twitter. His company only has a few thousand, but they'll actually drive announcements from him, and he has another great person on the team named Amanda who has 100,000 followers, and they're driving things. Now they're strategically using the brand page for, now I'm interested in, what they're talking about. They're, of course, balancing, their cooking dinner. They're weaving in things about the product. They've done it in a way that has sparked my interest, and now I'm following the product. Now the product, their social media is not that as interesting, but it's giving me the details I need, like how to get the software, features of the software. And so smart founders, what they do is they start to pivot as it becomes a bigger brand. I'm funneling people from my network that do enjoy the product to get over there. It's still like consistent posting, but as it becomes bigger and a community, starts to form, then they taper off maybe from the personal and start using the brand. And so to answer your question about a launch, I say, you use your resources as far as yourself, your network, letting people know. I like to do like coordinated announcements as far as doing like a signature like virtual event, whether so I'm in like the knowledge base like thought leadership. So it could be like a video, it could be like a LinkedIn Live, something that is time sensitive because with social, it's happening all the time. So if people are like, oh, I'll get to that later, they might forget. So if there's something special happening that I can only see at a small window, that brings a little sense of urgency there. And people, if they're interested, respond to the sense of urgency. So it tends to be, I think a little creative. And as far as like the network goes, if you have influential people that, and when I say influential, I don't mean necessarily the person with the most followers or the blue check mark. I'm saying who is the person that is influential to your target audience. So, if it's like the seasoned saints we're going after, so it would be like the pastors or the deacons on social or the choir, and who if someone says something, they're like, oh, wow, this must be good. It's all about trust in that way. So I think sense of urgency, using your personal brand, and then using advocates or influencers to really bring that credibility.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense to me. Here's what I'd like to do next. I have a couple more questions for Joey and Adrian. We're going to open it up to questions from all of you as well. But before we do that, would love to give everyone, just because I think it's a good exercise, would love to give everyone a few minutes for all of the teams to actually do what Joey said. So all of the teams in here, think about your company that you'll be pitching tomorrow. How would that company show up as a person? And where would that person exist online? Would they be on Twitter? Would they be on Facebook? Would they be on TikTok? Would they be on Instagram? Would they be on another platform that's maybe more focused? Would they be on LinkedIn? We'll give, 10, 15. We'll give everybody 10 minutes to come back with an answer on how you think your company would show up as a person. After that, we'll give everybody an opportunity to share how you think your company would show up. And then Joey and Adrian will be here to answer any questions you have about launching your business profiles, using your personal brand to support the business, or anything else when it comes to social media. So, go ahead.
Can I add a little bit? I mean, can I add some extra instructions as well?
Yeah, I mean, you got the mansion party tickets. So you
yeah,
do whatever you want to do.
Yeah, I would love to also add to that. Just think about how if they were a human, like again, like what kind of shoes. So the thing is to get you to step into your company's shoes, right? And so you can understand the company. So what kind of shoes do they wear? What is their favorite clothes? Do they wear perfume, cologne, so on and so forth? Are they driving a car? Like, are they taking Uber or rideshare or something, or walking, or public transit, or walking, stuff like that, right? So think about all those personal traits, and I would love to hear the report out of it as well, and I'd love to maybe we can get some feedback.
Yeah, definitely. All right, so now it's 10:17, so we will come back at 10:27 and have our teams report back. I don't think you'll need a huge amount of time to do it. There should be enough time, but looking forward to hearing what you come up with. All right? Thanks. Hello? Thanks. All right, everybody. Welcome back. Looking forward to hearing what everybody's going to be wearing to Joey's VIP party. Before I call on people, anybody like to go first? Oh, let's go. Yeah, Lincoln University, Missouri, back here. Oh, Neil will bring you the mic.
Hello.
There
we go.
Great.
All right, guys. So this is Mary. I'm just gonna point here. I'm gonna introduce her. So this is Mary. She's a
wait. So first, tell us a little bit about the business, just like one line, so we have a little bit of context, and then you can go into.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So basically, we're having, and I don't want to go too much into detail, but basically, we have an app for bicyclists that find dangers in their neighborhood, and basically, they want to communicate with other cyclists.
That's enough.
That's enough. All right, cool. Because I didn't want to go too much into detail. So that app is called Mary. Well, that's her name. She's a minority college student. We chose that she wears a lot of purple. She wears a lot of matching, like sweatsuits, biker shorts, sports bras type stuff.
Well, everybody proceed orderly outside, I suppose.